Hey, cheers, my mates. This is just part of 2-hour podcast that I did with Johnny Walker Red on the topic of Chrystul Kizer and Dominic Black. If you want to see the whole thing, the link for it will be in the description and in the pinned comment. It's on Johnny's channel. But this is also an announcement because I will be moving those longer format videos, conversations with other people to Spotify, so you can download it, the audio, and for example when you're driving, listen to it, on a long road trip if you are interested in that, because I fully understand that not everyone has the time to sit for 3-4 hours, for example, and watch me and some other people talk. So yeah, if you are interested in that, both it will be also linked in the pinned comment and in the description. So without any further ado, let's see what I and Johnny Walker Dread have to say about the case of Chrystul Kizer. Shall we? We have, for example, Ripley has a question if we are
really a Chrystul
supporter.
That's a good question. That's an excellent question.
Depends.
By the way, Charbel asked a pretty good one after this, so we should come back to that. But are we, and I would assume that we kind of, both of us are in the same, not the same boat, but we have to answer this, but am I a Chrystul supporter? I was initially. And I have videos explaining as to why Chrystul had a fairly good defense for her claim. Then the evidence started coming out. Now at this point, my feeling about it is whatever the evidence points to, we'll have to go with that.
Right.
It's unfortunate for her, but every time something gets revealed in that case, it's never in her favor. And it just seems to be getting worse and worse and worse. By the time the trial comes around, maybe things will have turned. But man, she's got an uphill battle to fight here. Now, I will say this: her strategy, and of course it's her lawyer strategy, but the strategy is that there's an affirmative defense centered around safe harbor. Okay, and that means that she's been trafficked as a minor. And there is kind of a rule, a law that says that you can't be held accountable for crimes related to that trafficking. That's what she's banking on. Now, Gravely came in and said, well, now, wait a minute. This wasn't meant for murder. It was meant for things like drug possession. Like if your pimp gives you drugs to take and you get busted while doing it, you can't be held for possession because it was part of the trafficking thing. But it's not meant for you to just stalk your pimp and kill him. Okay, that's what the prosecution's claiming. Her claim is going to be that it doesn't matter if it's murder or not. She was trafficked. She had these horrors inflicted on her, and therefore this defense should cover her.
Right.
So you can see how this is going to shape up. My opinion of it is that there's a good chance she could get a hung jury. Right. There's just going to be people on the jury that say, look, what she went through, I can't blame her for what she did, and I'll be damned if I'm going to convict her. If she's relying on the pure reading of the law, though, I think she's in trouble.
Right. In a second, I just want to. I think we should, or I will quickly recap what was happening in Chrystul Kizer case. She was, just for those of you who do not know, she was at the time 17 years old. She was for a year and some change trafficked as a prostitute by this piece of shit, like Andrew Waller. Randy Waller, sorry. And yeah, what had happened was that she on purpose went to his place and killed him. There's no indication that there was any struggle or anything like that. There are also text messages that indicate that she went there with the purpose of killing him. She shot him twice in the head, tried to burn the body, stole his car and drove away. Then she got apprehended later on. She's, as Johnny explained, that's her legal strategy. Now, when it comes to Ripley's question, if I'm her supporter, well, that depends. If she just murdered him and with the intention of stealing his car and stuff like that, well, definitely no. But there was the thing that Mr. Volar was arrested because a 15-year-old girl escaped from him, and she reported him to the authorities, and they arrested him and secured a lot of child pornography, in his possession. He was, I believe, he was some time in jail, if I'm not mistaken, and then he was let go. If she, for example, killed him with that, hey, the cops will not protect us, we're gonna have to do it ourselves, something along those lines, then yeah, I would be her supporter. I would not have problem. Is it legal? No, hell no. But and do I understand the prosecution? Yeah, absolutely. But how could you blame her? You know what I mean, in that situation? But again, if I might point, the Kenosha PD is this is a failure, or the DA's failure. I don't know who failed there, but somewhere in the chain, there was a gigantic failure. How can you let such a man walk the streets again? So yeah.
Well, and the question is, can I blame her? I don't know, because I'm not quite sure yet completely what happened. I will probably find out a lot more as the trial unfolds. But I look at this thing from a straight legal standpoint. She's taken a legal strategy. She's claiming safe harbor. And there are criteria that she has to meet. They're kind of weird, but there's criteria that she has to meet. I went over this very thoroughly in one of my previous videos. I'm skeptical that she's going to be able to meet them. However, if she can, guess what? Not guilty. And she'll be able to enroll at Arizona State if she wants to. You know what I mean? The hypocrisy, though, is going to be fascinating. Keep in mind, what did you call Randall Volar when you mentioned him?
Yep. Piece of shit.
Okay. And guess what? Every time I've ever read an article by a leftist or an anti-collar, or whatever you want to call them, they go on and on about how he deserved to die because of the horrible things he was. But then they turn around and they say, JoJo, he was a hero. JoJo was a great man. Oh, that thing about raping boys, come on, we can't even bring that up in court. Had nothing to do with the shooting. Kyle didn't even know. So, the hypocrisy there is incredible. They bring up the child pornography thing all the time in the as a reason for her able to shoot Randall Volar, but then JoJo Rosenbaum, it's not even relevant. So, absolutely. Oh yeah, and then there's the gun thing, right? How much time have they spent talking about Kyle being in illegal possession of that weapon? And remember, if you're in illegal possession of the weapon, you're guilty.
Yeah,
you're guilty. But then she carried a handgun in her purse to his house and shot him, and hers was a felony. And yet you're going to hear what? Well, she had to protect herself. Okay,
absolutely.
It's going to be horrible.
And what we will see from the media, from people, from everyone, will be, oh yeah, well, Kyle got off with self-defense, and she was sexually trafficked, and she will not get off with self-defense. And not to mention that they will not even bother to basically read or to check, her legal strategy, that she's not even going with self-defense. You know what I mean? That she's going with quite different like strategy. By the way, I just would like to also clarify with the with what I said, the condition when I would be like considered to support Chrystul Kizer, where she would kill Mr. Volar on purpose, and it would be in my mind, okay, don't forget that she was at the time 17 and after quite some severe trauma, like and stuff like that, possibly like on drugs or something like that. All that combined, not to mention not particularly educated, what I mean. Like I don't think she was like attending school that much, and it all compounds to being in completely desperate situation potentially. You know what I mean? But that's hypothetical.
Situation was because her family life was absolutely ludicrous.
Yes.
Her mother had a boyfriend who abused Chrystul. The mother threw Chrystul out of the house, and then of course the mother now is pounding the theme that we got to get justice for for Chrystul. We got to get justice.
Oh my God!
Oh my God! Come on, lady, you're the biggest hypocrite around. So yeah. By the way, Charvel asked a really good question.
Right. So we have two questions, like here first from YouTube user. Like great name, like original. Was Volar shot twice in the head, in the back of the head? As far as I know, no, he was shot twice from the front.
No, he was shot. I'm pretty sure he was shot in the head as he was sitting down in a chair.
Yeah, but from the front, not from the back. I think. Could be wrong on that. I don't know.
I don't know. You got me on that one. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I will just quickly recap Chrystul's like a legal defense or the strategy, because Curbside Nation is asking, so what is her legal defense? That it sounds like a murder to him. The legal defense is that because she was sexually trafficked, she was basically forced to be a prostitute for Mr. Volar, that there's an exemption on like from the law, that the crimes. Well, you explained better. I actually just lost the
So it's called safe harbor by a number of states. Oddly enough, they don't use the term safe harbor in Wisconsin's legal their statutes, but it's essentially the same. The whole point of this was this: in the past, prostitutes were always being jailed for all kinds of crap, and most of it was because their pimps made them do it. So they were used as like mules for carrying drugs around because the pimps didn't want to carry it, right? So if she gets in the pinch, she got the drugs on her, I don't go to jail. And so a lot of times these prostitutes were being put into jail for crimes that really were not of their doing. It was because of the situation they were in. And so they passed these laws called safe harbor laws that basically said that, look, if your crime was a result of, directly connected to the sexual trafficking that you were being placed under, you cannot be convicted of it. And of course, the prosecution saying, look, that was meant for things like drug offenses and prostitution itself, right? So it basically made prostitution practically legal as far as the conviction of prostitutes go. You can still go after the Johns, the clients, and you can still go after the pimps, but prostitutes themselves were harder to convict because the crime of prostitution was obviously related to their trafficking. Okay, so that was the whole basis for this, was to ease up on prostitutes so that we're not throwing them in the jail all of the time. This is the first time that, as far as I know, that someone is claiming that their killing of the pimp was protected under this. Okay, well, you can see the obvious problems with this argument, right? It basically gives a person a license to kill. No matter, and the rule has basically always been in this country that no matter what somebody has done to you, no matter how badly they've treated you, you don't have a right to stalk them down and kill them. However, this law, as the defense is interpreting it, basically says that you can. That if this person has been trafficking you, has been, pimping you out, It doesn't have to be minors. It could be for adults as well. But if that person is doing these horrible things to you and you kill him, then you can't be prosecuted. Obviously, the repercussions of that are pretty serious. It basically makes an open season on pimps by their prostitutes. And while a lot of people will applaud that, keep in mind that's not the way our justice system is supposed to work. So the defense came in, made the safe harbor affirmative defense. So it's affirmative defense is like self-defense. You're going to claim that, yeah, I did shoot him. I satisfied all of these elements of murder, but I'm excused from it because I have this defense here that I was trafficked. And I said on my show that the prosecution, by the way, appealed. They said, oh, come on, you can't do that. The appeals court said, no, this applies to murder too. Which, okay, my first reaction was, holy cow, are you really kidding me? But then, so I made a video on it claiming this is ridiculous, this is crazy. But then I read the actual appeals court ruling. The requirements that she has to meet, there's 5 of them, are pretty stringent. And so I don't think that she's going to have to prove that the killing was directly connected to the trafficking. It's just one of them. Well, that's kind of a tough sell.
Awesome. If I may, like we have here Samuel Spencer, he's replying and he's saying that he would go with insanity. Hard to sell when you have the text, the prosecution has the text, like saying that basically suggesting that it was, like premeditated, like that she was going to on purpose with clear mind to the house, so that is basically off the table.
And keep in mind, there is a famous case called the burning bed case here in the United States, where an abused wife basically burned her husband alive. He was sleeping on a bed, and she poured gasoline on it and set it on fire and killed him. And she claimed insanity, and she won. She was not convicted, and they had a movie made out about it called The Burning Bed with Farrah Fawcett Majors. This is back in the 80s, I believe. So there is some let's say, prior case law on this, but I think you're right. An insanity plea, going back to the evidence of what happened, it doesn't really come across as a person who's temporarily insane. And I don't know at what point they can claim an insanity defense. I mean, after all, is that something you have to claim at the outset? Or can that be considered like a lesser offense kind of deal where the jury can take this into account? I don't know. We'll probably find out more about that. Her defense team has mentioned nothing about insanity. So I don't think it's on their radar.
Yep. Not to mention that already the statements that she gave to police around it.
Oh yeah, I mean,
allow her to do that.
If there was ever a case where you didn't want your client talking to the cops, it's Chrystul Kizer. She said about everything you don't want to say to them, and one of the ones that is going to be really big to the jury, not much to the media. They'll completely bury this, but they asked her, when you set fire to the house, did you know if he was alive? And she said no. So she's claiming. She basically testified to the cops that she may very well have burned him alive, and it comes across as non-caring. As much as we hate somebody, burning somebody alive is really that really it makes it tough. That's pretty unpalatable. We don't wish that on almost anybody, even Randall Volar, as despite all the horrible things he did. Even the jury is going to say that's a bit much. So we'll see.
Right. Yes. I'm rather worried. I know this is shitty to say, but now it is just about the lawyers, so that like this. the precedent that if she's successful with this defense, like will be insane. And so I'm in a kind of like tough spot, like to a degree, not so much, like I don't look like not my country, like so I'm like fairly okay with it from this case, but the precedent that will set is literally you can as long as you are a prostitute, you can go around like and kill your pimp. Not to mention it, like even if for people who don't have a problem with this, well, there will be plenty of cases where the wrong person will get killed. You know what I mean? The person who is just perceived to be a pimp, for example, or maybe a woman will use it and like will lie about it, will manufacture like evidence, like for premeditated murder, etc. So the precedent would be absolutely insane. So in this case.
Let's go ahead and extend this a little bit more. Why is it only limited to sex trafficking? What about children of parents who abuse them? Are they not also undergoing extreme trauma on a daily basis? Are we going to excuse that, killing their parents? I mean, you could see that this could go well beyond just trafficking. And so, this would be the first time that we would be basically giving people the license to kill. And we have a self-defense law, but the understanding of it is that you kill to defend your own life at that moment. This was not revenge. This was not to get even or to get yourself out of a situation. It was designed to prevent you from getting hurt yourself. This would be like, he's trafficking me. I'll wait for him when he comes home and I'll shoot him. That's not self-defense, but you could still get away with it.
Yep.
Insanity hard to prove.
Yeah, I actually had a kind of a idea an angle that the defense could play, and that is basically use Kyle's case that he got acquitted, and basically approach DA, be like, do you really want to prosecute from political reasons? Do you really want to prosecute this case? Like a young black girl, like that killed her sex trafficker, like a white man and stuff like that, blah 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 blah. You really are prepared to take this heat on? Like kind of like that. Let's make some kind of a deal. Let's plead this down. Like somehow.
Well, they already offered her a plea. They offered to plead it down to manslaughter, and she refused it.
What would be the? Do you know what she would have to spend? How many years she would have to spend?
I thought it was a maximum of 20. And of course, given her situation, by the way, she has been in trouble with the law. Yeah, she was engaged in carjacking. In fact, she's been in trouble. I mean, she's kind of a bad girl in that sense. So, in that case, that would be brought up about her during sentencing. But the fact that she was trafficked and her home life was absolutely horrible would probably play pretty well in her favor. She wouldn't get 20.
Yeah, she could, I'm just thinking what I would do, if I would be in her shoes, right now, and what would be the thing would be to go on some very popular show, or at least have my lawyer speak there or something like that, to still, for example, try to reach out to LeBron or something like that. I don't know, whatever it would take.
Well, I think she will. Yeah. I mean, I think you're going to see that. And she is going to be a popular celebrity, in my opinion.
And just basically go with the angle. Look, all this horrible stuff was happening. We even reported, Mr. Volar to police. We basically got it there. Where you were, why you didn't help me before, and stuff like that. I was young, I was scared, I was blah blah blah. All that. Basically, play the emotions, soak that, and create such a, pardon me, but then shitstorm that the DA would have to go through, like that he would have constantly protests, protesters, like in front of his office and stuff like that. That he would be like, man, I don't really want to prosecute it that much. Let's play this down, to something, and he would maybe go. I don't know if it would work, but that would be at least like the angle I would be choosing.
Well, here I'm going to play the pragmatic prosecutor here. I dropped this thing. I just dropped charges. I can go on to something else. Okay, and the reason why is because if I'm going to be in Gravely's shoes, there is no winning this thing. He is going to be thrashed beyond recognition. You really think that Kyle was butchered? Wait until Gravely has to explain why he is persecuting a young black female who killed the man who sexually trafficked her.
Yep.
What's he going to gain out of this? I mean, I don't even know why he's prosecuting her at this point. It's sort of his job, but I mean, at this point, he could simply say, "We looked at the safe harbor deal. Guess what? I don't think we have a case here now, so I'm going to go ahead and drop
after the appeals court, and stuff like that. Yeah, but there's another angle that the defense team, and this would be public, a court of public opinion, but it would work, would be like, oh yeah, did you see Binger's performance during Kyle's trial? He bungled up the trial and basically made it sure that Kyle Rittenhouse got away with a murder. He was because he was like, to be honest, like Binger was doing the defense job for them better than they were, to be honest, throughout the trial. And so if they would choose this angle, because like the DA office is like white supremacist and blah blah blah, all that stuff, they basically made it so that Kyle Rittenhouse can get away, with a murder, so he's not, has some problems with the double jeopardy and stuff like that. And now they are going after Chrystul Kizer and stuff like that. That would be another angle to basically put a lot of pressure on the DA's office, So yeah.
I mean, by the way, if you there's going to be a big contrast here between Binger and Gravely. Binger stumbles around. We saw his performance. Some of us were wondering how in the hell this guy got a law degree. Gravely is no slouch, and I think people are going to watch. If this thing goes to trial with Chrystul Kizer, you're going to see a guy who's a pretty seasoned interrogator. And the contrast is not going to get lost on the people on the left who are going to see, like, oh my gosh, when it's one of ours, look how they're going after this person. That's going to confirm to them that Binger must have been throwing this thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because after all, we all saw the video. Kyle clearly went out and murdered 2 people and shot another, and Binger couldn't do anything. But here's Gravely coming along and boom, here's the evidence. Boom, here's the evidence. It's going to be interesting. And again, I don't know why Gravely's even pursuing. I wouldn't. I would just drop this. I'd say, hey, man, they don't pay me enough money to undergo the threats that I'm going to get. You think people are mad at Kyle? You wait until the Chrystul Kizer case comes up. Yep. There's going to be death threats against Gravely all day long.
100%. Just want to, because Richie Corner has here a good point, and that is true, because in the end, this is precisely what the prosecutor's job is. You know what I mean? Like, she, let's be honest, it's basically a murder. It is a murder, and she came, unless there's some insane thing, I don't see how anyone can say anything else.
I think that Richie is saying, though, that he's legally obligated to.
Yes, that's what I mean. And my question, okay.
I don't know what would prevent a prosecutor from getting a result from an appeals court and saying the appeals court's got it. We simply cannot win this because the appeals court ruled that that she has an affirmative defense here, and we can't. I don't know. He might be right. It may be that he has to prosecute this, but I don't know.
But yeah, I wanted to ask you, in Wisconsin, when the DA makes a deal with the defendant, who decides on the sentence, like then, like is it like DA basically? Oh, I'm happy with this, or is it then going to a judge? Jonah?
Try the question again. Got distracted for just a moment.
Yeah, if the defendant and the DA they reach a deal, right? For example, here with on the manslaughter, and you said that the maximum is 20 years. Who decides on how many years Chrystul spends in prison? And like, is it the DA who says, "Oh, okay, I'm fine with 8 years," for example, or is it up to a judge?
The judge. It's always up to the judge. The judge could say, I mean, the prosecution could, in principle, say we only looking at 1 year. The defense could say we don't want any, and the judge come back with 10 years. The judge is completely in control of the sentence within guidelines, of course. Now, one of the mistakes a lot of people think is that when the law says there's a minimum of 10 years, it's not true. The judge can make it 0. The Supreme Court already ruled on that. So while there may be statutes in place that set a minimum, the judge can violate that. Now, he can't violate a maximum. But yeah, the judge could. I mean, although it's rarely ever done. But usually the judge is if he's really mad at the defendant, he'll just take the prosecution's suggested charge. Going above it, probably kind of rare, but we'll see. DA can only recommend. Yes. It's a recommendation. You're saying that we think that the appropriate sentence is this. The judge decides.
Right. Well, by the way, just saying we have in Czech Republic the same principle. We have the same principle where the prosecution, like recommends, and the judge, like then decides on their own. We have just a quick question from Mr. Jackson. When is the case scheduled to begin?
I'm sorry, you were asking me a question?
Yes, Mr.
I'm
Jackson.
sorry. I thought you were asking John Jackson.
No.
Okay, when is the case scheduled to begin? Chrystul Kizer's is probably in the spring. I don't think they've set a date because they're still mulling over the appeals thing. So people say, "Oh, the appeals, a couple of weeks." No, they've been hammering on this appeals thing for a good year now, and they still haven't decided it. So we don't have a court date, but I'm thinking spring.
Yeah, just also to check it out.